Funko, oh, oh, oh. I got married to a Funko Pop. Whoa. We got wedded, conjoined in a Subway shop. Whoa. I'm married to my Funko Pop. Whoa. We got joined, coitus in a Subway shop. Whoa. Vitamins and biscuits and minerals, they come to me through a tube. My whole life is spent watching on a tube. Whoa-oh. Whoa-oh. Whoa. I'm married to a Funko Pop. Whoa. We got wedded, we got joined in a Subway shop. Whoa. Vitamins and minerals, they come to me through a tube. Vitamins and minerals, they come from me through this here tube. Whoa. Funko. I got married to my Funko Pop.
Time for another stream. All you player haters, all you master debaters, welcome to another live stream. Today we're going to be talking about the socialist collapse that's going on. Pretty wild, especially given the fact that a lot of the information that we've covered, particularly in books in the last few years, really lines up with what's happening. The books were very prophetic. I'm speaking, of course, of Dr. John Coleman's book, Socialist Dictatorship, where he specifically talked about collapsing the EU and the UK with Fabian socialism. And the mass people movements that you're seeing are not accidental, they are by design. In fact, they were written about in several of Dr. Coleman's books back in the 1990s as a specific plan that would come to fruition in the next several decades. And of course, he was spot on. More relevant and more recent is the Johann Ratu book, the Milner Fabian Socialist text, that we've lectured through, that we've been promoting and talking about since I just randomly happened upon it through somebody recommending it on Twitter. I found the last copy available on Amazon. And as you can see here, when I shared this some months back, it got almost 600,000 views. So it kind of went mini viral. The Milner Fabian Conspiracy, How an International Elite is Taking Over and Destroying Europe, America, and the World. And of course, people who don't read and assume things and just make up nonsense about me claim, oh, you don't talk about other countries in the Middle East. Oh, you don't talk about European peoples and their heritage and all. This book covers that. If you had listened to me, if you'd read the book, which I think is in print again, you would know it covers all that, and you would know that it's simply not true. I just used wisdom about how I go about talking about things. Now, what about the Middle Eastern countries? What about the Rothschilds? You don't talk about them. You only talk about these made-up Fabian socialists. It's the same plan, you dummies. There's no difference. The same people. The internationalist technocratic socialists are not out of accord with the rabbinical Marxists, shall we say. And we've covered of note recently Moses Hess's book, Rome and Jerusalem. We have covered Viktor Ostrovsky's Mossad texts. So I've covered these texts, and I've known about these texts and read these texts way before almost all of you. I knew about all this stuff in the early to mid 2000s was when I was first introduced to a lot of these topics. Even when I was a trad cat, I read the anti-Zionist traditional Catholic critiques of Masonry, and Masonry is a Judaic institution. I knew all that stuff 15, 20 years ago. So stop wasting my time and stop lying about what I don't know and what I've never covered. It's just your own laziness and ignorance. And you think that you're some special person because you've just learned these things in the last few years from people on Twitter, when we've actually undergone being booted from platforms, being demonetized, losing hundreds of thousands of dollars on YouTube for discussing these topics for many years, having my entire website deleted for questioning major events. So don't tell me about you haven't gone through shit. You have never spoken up about nothing. Okay, anonymous profile with 50 followers. Yeah, I've never gone through anything, never dealt with anything. Imagine having your entire means of income and living that you spent 10 years building, hundreds and hundreds of articles and essays that you wrote, suddenly deleted one day when you wake up. That's what I dealt with. And what did I do? Did I whine and bitch? I was upset. I asked for some support on a live stream. I think I got $9,000. And guess what that helped? That helped me learn to rebuild an entire freaking website from scratch. I didn't know anything about that. I'm still not even a tech dude. I was forced to do that. So don't give me your bullshit about how I don't talk about this or that, or I've never undergone any persecution. He doesn't do anything. He doesn't talk about this. No, you just don't know what I talk about. And you don't listen to what I've talked about. I've been talking about this stuff. By the way, nobody else lectures through these books. Everyone just talks about stupid ass drama. And all you low tier people that follow the drama streamers, you're like chaff in the wind. You come and go. So I don't even care about you guys. I'm not worried about the latest drama streams. I was watching the drama in the Worski days. People were following the drama and what Worski was covering in 2017, and his channel blew up, and then his channel died. Does anyone care about the drama from 2017 with Richard Spencer versus whoever? Nobody cares about any of that shit. And in 10 years, nobody's going to care about today's Twitter drama except all of you low-tier people. Now, we don't focus on that here. If I'm forced to talk about drama, I will. If somebody calls me out, somebody tries to challenge me, in those situations, I will talk about it. We actually cover the books, the text, the material. No one else does that. I take that back. Richard Grove does it. Certain people do it. But in this sphere of geopolitical, espionage, conspiracy topics, and in religion and theology, no one does that. I mean, Richard focuses mainly on geopolitics, that's it. Okay, but we focus on a lot of things. So all of these people who complain and whine about me, it really only helps me, because what happens is people hear these things and then they come over here and listen to what we actually say, and they see me lecturing through books, and then they realize actually he knows what he's talking about. He's not just spouting out about what sassy face lord is having sassy drama with another face lord. But a lot of you people actually feed on the drama, and so you're your own worst enemies. You could be actually learning about this stuff. If you'd listened to me, for example, about BTC, you would have a 40 to 50x profile or portfolio. But what did you do the last 7-8 years? Did you listen to the stuff I talk about where we actually applied this knowledge to getting monetary gain? And I'm not saying that's the only thing that matters. I'm just using it as an example. Or did you spend all these years playing video games, talking shit on the internet, scrolling nonsense, and wasting your time? So you're your own worst enemy, not me. We're going to talk about the long-term plans. By the way, I learned about replacement people groups, shall we say, I don't know, in 2007, and that this was a strategy. I had not read in depth into Fabian socialism. I didn't know a whole lot about that at that time. I knew that Marxism, socialism was bad. I've never liked that. But I didn't realize that this was a pretty well thought out plan. And then when over on my channel, we just decided to cover the Quigley book, the massive classic tome, Tragedy and Hope, I noticed that he mentioned Count Coudenhove-Kalergi. And he says that the Kalergi, and it might be also an Anglo-American establishment. In one of the two books, he says they decided that the best strategy for Europe would be breaking it up and turning it into some sort of melting pot through the erasing of the existing people groups. And what's the best way to do that? Well, Quigley didn't really answer that question. He references Count Coudenhove's book. And guess what? I bought and read Count Coudenhove's Practical Idealism book. So I know what he says. And it's pretty much right. You can call it a conspiracy theory all day long, but it's in his text, it's in his books. And Quigley says, yes, they adopted that plan. You can fast forward all the way to General Wesley Clark, more recently saying, in the last, 15 years, 20 years, yes, the plan is to essentially unravel and destroy the existing European groups. And that will be done through mass people movements. Now, when I go on Twitter, when I go on whatever, and I hear people on chatting about why this is happening, really only Lord Voldemort has the full big picture to point out that it's by design, because he's familiar with all these texts that we're talking about. Now, maybe not the Ratu book, because this book is basically an appendix to Tragedy and Hope and Anglo-American Establishment. In fact, Ratu has read all those texts. He's also aware of the Big Nine event. And so he's able to integrate all of these, as well as critique the Fabian socialist origins of British intelligence and how this is really a bigger strategy that's methodical and by design. But it is so hard, and it's almost damn near impossible to convey to people that it's by design. I don't know why people can't figure this out. The first thing they say is, oh, it's a conspiracy theory. And then they'll say, you think that the libtards are that competent? You're vastly overestimating the competency of the libtards. Look at Keir Starmer. He can't do anything. Keir Starmer's strategies and plans are working beautifully. If you understand that the plan and the strategy is to destroy the existing people groups and nation states. And that doesn't mean that the nation state out of the Enlightenment is the ideal government. I'm not even saying that. I'm just saying that it's the next phase of the revolution, a la Brave New World, is to get rid of nation states. Nation states are like bigger versions of families. So to get rid of them is what is absolutely necessary to transition into internationalism. Now, we're already a long way down the road to internationalism. International economic order was achieved, you could say, out of the Renaissance, the acceptance of gold standard eventually. And I'm not saying that that makes anything other than gold standard good. I'm just saying that's just a reality, right? Quigley talks about international law, international maritime law being set up out of the European wars, out of World War I and World War II, which essentially puts us in this Bretton Woods scenario post-World War II, where we have the dominance of democratic capitalism and the money power. That's what runs the world. And you can include the corporations in that as well. They're pretty much the same thing. So it's not a libertarian versus, free the state model. Okay, that's what the Enlightenment people were saying 500 years ago. Okay, we're not living in the 500 years ago world. We're living in a methodically, strategically planned scenario about how to move the world into a Fabian socialist technocratic order. That's what we're living under right now. And if you doubted that, the COOF period should have shown you that the international corporate order of the Fortune 100, Fortune 500 are all on board. And most of the governments are on board. Why would they all have had the same policies if they aren't already on board? Another way to see this is the entire world teaches, for example, Darwinism. Almost the entire world. It is an unquestioned dogma. Now, even if you think that it's true, why does the whole world teach it? How come there's not and yes, there are more recently rising competing challenges to it with, Stephen Meyer and intelligent design, all that kind of stuff. But I'm just saying for the last 100 years, it's basically been unquestioned dogma throughout the world. Beyond that, in economics, as we just saw, as we lectured through Saifuddin's book, Bitcoin Standard, the majority of that book actually wasn't even about Bitcoin. It was about monetary history. So it's a great introduction to the basics of Austrian economics. I have some criticisms of Austrian economics, but it's certainly better than the monetarism of Milton Friedman or the Fabian socialism of John Maynard Keynes. Why is the whole world built on Keynesian institutions? That's what Ratu has demonstrated in this text. He showed that whether it's the IMF or whether it's the post-Bretton Woods Keynesian system, or whether it is the World Bank, whether it is the United Nations, UNESCO, all of these have that ethos behind them. Why? Why would the whole world have one dominant economic theory if supposedly we live in a free West of free exchange of ideas? There's dogmas that are not questionable, which shows we don't actually live in a free exchange of ideas civilization. And as we track the history of socialism in the 20th century, particularly Fabian socialism, so you have to understand we're not talking about classical Marxism. Everyone knows, and we can very clearly see, that classical Marxism failed. And I've studied under Marxists. My graduate advisor people, Dr. Martel, was a trained under Frankfurt School Marxist guy. If I recall, he studied under Habermas's protege. I forget the guy's name. But he wrote his dissertation on Hegel and republicanism. So I understand Marxism very well from the inside. All the different branches and the theories and all this kind of stuff. Frankfurt School versus the classical Histmat, Dyer. I know all that stuff. And what we are dealing with today isn't exactly any of that. And that's what is so hard to convey to people, because people don't know the history of Marxism and the nuances and the different sects and schools and schisms of Marxism. They think that, if you talk about Marxism, then you won't talk about the Jews. Well, many Jews have been involved in Marxism. That's absolutely true. Most of the founding fathers of the modern nation state of Israel, as we've covered ad nauseum for so many years, were explicitly atheistic socialist Jews. In fact, Moses Hess says in his book Roman Jerusalem that he hopes and believes that through the doctrines of Freemasonry, that Tel Aviv will become the kind of socialist utopia that the whole world looks to. And Theodor Herzl, Chaim Weizmann, many of the other founding Zionists of the nation state of Israel, well, the modern nation state of Israel, I should say, back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, they all said basically the same stuff. And if you read Roman Jerusalem, what's fascinating is that he relies very heavily on Spinoza and Hegel, which Spinoza doesn't surprise me because he was, of course, a Jewish guy who was actually excommunicated from his synagogues because of his pantheism. But you can begin to see the immanentizing of this process philosophy, which is, yes, Spinoza and Hegel. When you immanentize that, that's exactly what would lead to Marx, right? It's not ethereal God beings and deities. The real gods and systems and battles that we're fighting are the dialectics within time and space. And so Hegel's Hermetic religion, which actually also is very heavily influenced by Kabbalah, which we've talked about, lectured about for 10 years. Again, I took classes on Hegel, so I understand from Marxists how they read and understand Hegel. It's like people just don't have a clue about any of this stuff, and they listen to face lords who give them like one sliver of the message, and then they think that they're internet experts, and they don't know anything. So, for example, did you know that social justice, we hear about, the social justice warriors, all this stuff. Do you know that comes out of Fabian socialist ideologues? The very buzzwords that we hear, some of them were used by the Bolsheviks, and the Fabian socialists only disagreed with the Bolsheviks in terms of their strategies. Bolsheviks wanted blood right away. Take it over now, rise up, right? Fabian socialists said that's not going to work. The workers are too dumb. They're never going to rise up and understand all this abstract socialist economic theory. And they were correct. And they said we have to make alliance with big capital. Classical Marxists were hesitant to do that, even though classical Marxism itself was funded by banking elites. However, the goals of socialism, according to Dr. Coleman, are the eventual abolition of nation-state governments. the abolition of the idea and belief in patriotism. Now, it's true that patriotism can be used and you can be manipulated through your patriotic desires. But this is a bigger picture than that. We're looking beyond, did George Bush manipulate people at the Big 9 event through patriotism? That's true. But this is actually saying that the entire abolition of the belief in your own nature, your own nation state, your own people group, etc., has to be obliterated. The abolition of all property rights, the abolition of inheritance rights, the abolition of marriage and the family, the abolition of religion, particularly Christianity, the destruction of all national sovereignty and national laws for internationalism. What are the buzzwords that the Fabian Socialists pioneered? To be liberal, to be a pacifist, to be tolerant, to believe in progress, to be moderate, to be peaceful, to be democratic, to support the people. All the same gibberish. And now we can talk about colonialism, oppression, whiteness, right? All the same buzzwords, just updated versions. Now, isn't it amazing how prophetic this book was? Because he says they're going to open up the borders and import zillions of people from the third world. And if you don't like that, they're just going to call you racist. And everybody will be afraid of being called racist. And in fact, the key element that they would use that would also be overlooked is the breaking down of male-female relations. Women's liberation would be key to the success of Fabian socialism. And this actually comes out of people like Erich Fromm, and Walter Lippmann, who said this as well. And I always forget this. Who's the guy that came up with the magical plastic garbage? The orgone guy. That lunatic. He's actual lunatic, but people, I'm not joking. He's like one of the key thinkers of the Frankfurt School. Is this lunatic who came up with orgone? I always forget this guy's name, but anyway, he was a key figure in pointing out that in order to get rid of the patriarchy and to destroy Western civilization, what we'd have to do is get rid of the idea of the patriarch. How do we do that? Well, we do that through promoting the goddess. How do we promote the goddess? We promote sexual liberation. Okay. Somebody in the chat remind me of the guy who's I never remember this guy's name, even though somebody sent me orgone one time in the mail, like as if I wanted that. And it's all it is like a little pyramid of like a bunch of garbage encased in a plastic pyramid, and it's supposed to like channel vibes. Or Wilhelm Reich, thank you. Wilhelm Reich was the father of orgone, also promoting the notion of promotion of the goddess to promote sexual liberation, which was the only way to destroy patriarchy, according to them. So all these people write about this. You understand? This is in their books. And I studied under a dude who studied under the Frankfurt School guys. So it's not conspiracy. This is all real. So the obstacles to overcome, as we said, are national pride, patriotism. Rule of law is another one. You might think, well, wait a minute. Why would they want to? Aren't they liberals? Why would they want to undermine rule of law? They don't want rule of law to be a firewall to their scientism, technocratic tyranny. In other words, all the firewalls need to be gotten rid of. So even though the U.S. Constitution isn't perfect, it's not necessarily an explicitly Christian document. It does have the influence of Christian, English common law, Roman law, Christian canon law. All those things had an influence on the Constitution. So there's Christian elements within it. And that's precisely why it has to be gotten rid of. So more income tax and IRS models of taxation need to be promoted. By the way, he's writing this in the 1990s. Getting rid of trade barriers to have complete, open, and free trade. And you'll notice, like, the idea of having tariffs, which everyone was hating Trump for, that's actually a classic American model of producing so-called funds for the government, not IRS taxation. How do you think the government funded itself when there was no income tax? Which, by the way, is just theft. But still, how did they do it? Well, it was things like tariff. And so he's actually pointing out that total unrestricted free trade is itself a strategy that Marxist socialists and Fabian socialists have always pushed. And you understand, open total unrestricted free trade is intimately tied with total unrestricted people movements. Now, idiot libertarians always picture this and portray this as, this is what the market would dictate. People need to be freely able to go and trade. But wait a minute. They're not considering the forced people movements as a form of demographic warfare, which the Navy War College writes about. For those that don't know, this is a known principle of warfare. Well, don't talk about it or you're racist. Oh, I can't talk about the actual books like Kelly Greenhill wrote, Weapons of Mass Migration. Or so the Navy War College is racist for writing a book about the thing that they talk about. I mean, this is so stupid. This is how everyone is controlled, because they will just shut you down if you talk about what the system itself writes about. So, we talked before, too, about how Social Security didn't even exist until Fabian Socialist pushed and had it put in place. It wasn't even a thing. And it actually went into the UK first, and it bankrupted the UK. So you understand that the UK has had many, many Labour governments, and Labour is really just the Fabian Socialist Party. But it's rebranded as Labour to give the impression that it's about the workers, because they wanted to stop using the term, quote, labor. The term socialist. So they just went with a rebranding of the Labour Party. And by the way, the Labour Party are the ones that are always pushing these open border scenarios. And that's what leads to these horrible grape gangs and situations that we now see. So people cannot figure out, though, again, it's not accidental. And nothing is ever going to change or be fixed until we figure out that you can't fix this by just electing a new crop of scoundrels, right? Well, throw the scoundrels out. They're the bad apples. Then how do we fix it? The only way to fix it is to understand this is a systemic level problem, right? It's kind of like when we try to argue with or convince Roman Catholics of the problem, and the Roman Catholic thinks, well, I'll just wait until they elect a Bayes and Trad Pope. The errors are in the documents of Vatican II. Gaudium et Spes teaches Fabian Socialism, United Nations Socialism. Popes don't do away with dogma in Vatican II. They teach it. In fact, Leo just celebrated James Martin's Skittles. What's the word I'm looking for? Pilgrimage. The Skittles pilgrimage is being celebrated. Meanwhile, these delusional Roman Catholics are saying, oh no, this is actually Bayes and Trad. You can't make this up. Let's see. I think I put it in my bookmarks. Let's see. No, wait. Where's it at? Let's see. Somebody sent me, I think it's a DM is what it was. Let me see if I can find it. Bayes and Trad Pope Leo. Oh, turns out he's hanging out with, oh, here it is. James Martin, everybody's favorite activist. Dear friends, I was profoundly grateful for my audience at the Apostolic Palace with Leo. The message I received is that Leo will continue with the openness that Francis showed to gay Catholics. Where's the Bayes and Trad? Now, these delusional people are the ones that constantly attack me on a daily basis. These Roman Catholics, these trad cats. Every day is about refuting me. And their whole position is that we need to submit to Rome because that's really the only way to guarantee salvation. Why would anyone submit to this? Unless it's some sort of like gay BDSM submission thing that you guys are into. Like that's, maybe that is what you guys mean. Now, oh, but you had El Pitaforos went to a gay wedding. Yeah, do I support El Pitaforos? No. Is our structure the same as yours? This is the head of your church. This is the infallible, indefectible head of your church who supposedly cannot teach error in theology or morals. So it's not just a question of impeccability, sinlessness. It's a problem that is systemic. And it's the same inability that people have to understand systemic problems and how they're defeaters for systems, just like it is impossible almost until they, I don't know, are awakened to it, to understand that it's not liberal incompetence. Nothing will change until we understand that it's not the liberals and their incompetence that are destroying. That's a layer, a protective layer that hides and cloaks the inner cunning technocrat who knows what he's doing. But you see, you don't talk about the big Z. You are a failure because you don't talk about the big Z. Really. So you would have me convert to Rome, submit to Rome, even though I've already been through all this. And we're talking about the same Rome who prays in the synagogues. The papacy, whether it's John Paul II. In fact, entire books have been written about John Paul II's close lifelong friendship with Jerzy Kluger and how this changed Catholic teaching. So what the heck are you talking about? Are you insane? Do you not have basic reasoning skills? You can't figure out a basic contradiction? Submit to Rome? Oh, you mean the Rome that says that Jews shouldn't convert? In the 2003 U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops document, Reflections on Covenant and Mission. What does it say? It is certain that there should be no mission of Christians to Jews because their covenant remains in force. This is idiotic dispensationalist heresy that the Vatican and the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops is promoting. And I say the Vatican because did the Vatican ever correct this? Has this ever been rescinded? I said this to Tim Gordon and he said, you want to know what Tim, can you believe what, guess what Tim Gordon said about this document? And this is a lovely lawyer speak here. Tim said, well, it doesn't say it doesn't say that you shouldn't convert them. It says don't have a mission to them. It's like, man, you guys actually are Talmudists. Like the words are just redefined and they're massaged as needed. So again, I'm sure some of you can't even read that, but there you go. Let me make it bigger for you. Can you read that? Yeah, submit to Rome that says not to convert Jews and that supports Skittles pilgrimages. Give me a break. What the heck are you talking about? And how come nobody can figure this out? Like, it's literally in everybody's face. I'm almost feeling like really the answer is that there's a spiritual blindness that they can't see. Like there's something that just like shuts off their mind and their spirit and their discernment when you show them things that are just out in the open. It's not like these are really difficult, obscure examples that we have to spend, what does it actually mean? How do we understand that? And look at, there's the difficult language. No, it's not even language. It's actions that show the beliefs. Jay, do you have an Orthodox reading list? There's a video that's up called Top 10 or 15 Books. Kitsuke. Ignacio, $2. I'm finna get some Yakub knowledge. You know that much. You know that's right. Remnant, £10. In the UK, the Epping Hotel was overturned It's a migrant hotel by Judge Bean, who's the Fabian Socialist chair. He straight up said the rights of the migrants are above all those of the natives. There you go. The judge who overturned the attempt to stop this is the former Fabian Socialist chair. This vindicates everything that's in the Ratio book and everything I've been talking about for years. So we have these epic vindications. We have these perfectly precise explanations telling you who's doing what, why they're doing it, what the overall plan is. And all of the retards on Twitter and the internet just want to complain about me. I mean, you guys are your own worst enemy. Don't you understand? I'm trying to help you guys out. And you're your own worst enemies complaining about me. He's mean. He only debates Catholics. I don't only debate Catholics. The majority of the debates are not Catholics. It's not even true. The majority of the debates are Muslims. And all you idiot tradcats thought you were going to have a Muslim tradcat alliance. You are so stupid. You're so naive.
Oh, we don't talk about what the Talmud says. Do you know what the Talmud says about Jesus?
Yeah, I learned 20 years ago what the Talmud says about Jesus. And if you'd listened to me, you would have known that. 20 years ago. Matt Scroggins, $2. I'm late to the stream. What is the book? Well, we got several books that we're talking about today. We're talking about Johann Rathieu's book, Milner Fabian Conspiracy, which details this conspiracy like Tragedy and Hope. In fact, he pulls heavily from Tragedy and Hope. We're talking about Dr. John Coleman's book, Socialist Dictatorship, which was very prophetic. We're talking about Practical Idealism by Count Coudenhove Kalergi, which I knew about 15 years ago. We're talking about... is that it? Those are the main texts we're discussing today. Now, I don't have my Ratio book with me. I left it at the other place, but all the other books I do have with me. So, Austin Alvarez, $5. I was brainwashed as a government bootlicker in the military. It's unfathomable cringe looking back at it. It's funny you say that because people said, have you seen the trailer for this Jessica Chastain show on Apple? And I was like, oh, wow, dude, this is like next level. Actually, it's not even next level. It's literally just, she's a meme now. It's so silly. So this whole thing got turned into a meme because the new show is her and her black husband rooting out, you got it, white supremacist terrorists everywhere who are internet incel people. And her job is to infiltrate the organization through the chat groups. Now, it's funny that we've had in the last few months, last couple of years, some actual, satanic online network groups that BX, I did an interview with BX, you can find that on Twitter, where we talked about a lot of these groups. You might think, well, that kind of is real. No, this is actually the Alex Jones audience. So it's like they think the propaganda of 10 years ago is still going to work, even though now everyone knows that this is just literal ridiculous propaganda. And it's funny, I was reading the comments on YouTube underneath the trailer, and they're all making fun of it, which is that's a sign that they're all losing. Everybody's saying propaganda, bullshit, nobody believes this. But that's great. So the Hollywood propaganda is cracking and breaking. Oh yeah. So glad we got girl bosses in here stopping. Look, all the extremists. Now watch who the extremists are.
What do you do?
These are the unseen heroes that protect us.
All night sometimes.
I track people who are planning the attacks.
Who's planning? Oh, so heterosexual, straight, fit, buff, white dude. Sure. Yeah, it's not like an actual TRANZ lunatic.
My job is pretending to think like them to stop those people.
Here we go. Military guys, right? ROTC guys, white guys with glasses, who, by the way, aren't TRANZ. They're just normal, straight white dudes. Yeah, sure.
Snipers, bombings.
Yeah, all those white Christian snipers. Are there any of these? Crooks? Are you serious? You mean like all of these loons that they get to do this, they're like total shit lib, insane Skittles weirdos. No, the real threat is the white Christian terrorist militia man. Oh, look at that. Look at that. He's wearing a southern hat, like a southern boy, and he's unloading guns with a fat dude. Oh, militia. They're training in the woods. The militias are training. Remember when, who was the... Maxine Waters. Remember what Maxine Waters said? Trump, the training militias in the woods, they're coming to get you. The militias are training to come get all the black peoples. Remember that?
It's massive.
This guy isn't just...
You know what's funny, too, about this, which a lot of, like, the shit libs never seem to realize, hey, wait a minute. Let's say this narrative is true. How come all the black people need white Jessica Chastain to save them? I thought we were anti-racist, but hold up. We gotta have a sassy white girl to come save all the black people. Excuse me? That's racist as hell. Why are you trying to not be racist? Excuse me?
planning violence. He's out to make a statement.
That's a funny thing about, I forget who, somebody made this point years ago, and it was like, the people who push the Hollywood propaganda like this, like nobody even realized, I think maybe black people are starting to, woke people are starting to realize it now. It's like, how come the saviors are always the liberal white people? It's like lib white salvation. And this is the delusion of,
remember that Sandra Bullock movie with the football player?
the Sandra Bullock movie with the football, I forget the name of it. You're not talking about Precious, though. That's a Precious joke. Yeah, that was an example of it. But you start to notice, hey, wait a minute. It's always, look, white dude's getting mad.
He's out to make a statement.
White dude's getting mad at, like he's looking at Twitter. Somebody called him racist on Twitter. He's getting mad. He's banging his locker after working out. So all the white guys got to get together with the militias and the American t-shirts. We got a bunch of fat white dudes together. Fat boomer, Gen X, no boomers. It's all Gen X now with young guys.
Kind of a statement.
The kind that history refers to with a month and a date.
Oh, yeah, here we go. Big 9 event. Yeah, the Big 9 event, which was run by Christian 25-year-old white guys, right? I'm pretty sure they were behind the Big 9. Yeah, absolutely. Exactly, yeah. I mean, just insane levels of propaganda in this. But what's funny is the comments under YouTube, like, nobody buys it. Everybody's just making fun of it. Like, this is bullshit. Nobody believes this shit anymore. So it is funny to see the disconnect, like the Hollywood people's disconnect with what everybody actually thinks is pretty funny. So here's an Antifa dude in the UK. What's he up to?
What a beautiful day.
Oh, he's tearing down British flags. And by the way, these people always look the same. They look like total degenerates, covered in tats. They look like just slob trash, because that's pretty much what they are, right? Oh, look at this. Look how edgy he is. Oh, he cut down the British flag and stepped on it when that's so edgy when literally the entire establishment is behind you. It's like, yeah, it's really edgy. Oh, look at that, dude. You just got double middle fingered. Ooh, take that, right-wingers. Take that, racists. You just got owned. I'm over here slapping my locker like that white Christian male in the Savant trailer. Yeah, he's so brave. Like, he's taking down flags on a bridge alone in the middle of nowhere. It's like he probably hung him up to take him down, right? To look brave and edgy. Paul Watson says, this is very dodgy. We have 4 AFD candidates dying in the middle of the election. Now, I haven't kept up too close with German politics. My assumption is that probably these right-wing parties are pretty milquetoast. They usually are, because you basically can't get away with anything in the EU or whatever, with anything wholesome at all without being called. I mean, they think Alex Jones is far right in the UK, right? The EU and the UK think Alex Jones, who's libertarian, and Trump, they think they're far right, which is ridiculous. But that is pretty suspicious. But now, if it's suspicious, then that would suggest that we're actually up against a pretty cunning group of people, not a bunch of idiots. I mean, if you're going to take out people, you got to be kind of competent. You can't be total, like, shit-lib, incompetent people. And yet, we still have a giant mass of people that listen to Matt Walsh and Michael Knowles and all those people, and I'm sure they say some good things. But remember, what was it, a year ago? I had a response to Matt Walsh that went viral where he's saying, the libs are so incompetent. The incompetent libs. The incompetent. I mean, like, it's not the incompetent libs that are running shit, dude. It's competent, evil people. Why is this so hard for people to grasp? Lord Dyer, can we debate? Anybody who would like to call in can call in today, and I will open it up in a bit, and you can call in and ask questions about whatever. Obviously, we're on YouTube, so it can't be literally whatever. Okay, we're not going to debate 6 million because it was actually 600 million people. Okay, so no debates on that. We're going to be debating the topics that are listed, and then I guess please don't ask me about fasting and that kind of stuff. I'm not going to answer. If you ask me catechumen questions about fasting, about the calendar, I'm going to immediately move on. And then, you look how mean he is. You want to answer my question? Now, people are realizing, hey, our countries are Africa. What the heck's going on? When we went to Italy in our pilgrimage, I went to places where I didn't see any Italians. I'm not kidding. We went to Genoa, and I was scared in Genoa. I'm serious. I didn't see any. I thought Genoa is Africa or Pakistan. I don't know if you know that, but like, if you go to these places, it's say, here's Vienna. Oh, okay, this is a protest in Vienna. Now, if you read Kalergi, his reasoning is that we're going to have a world socialist government of some kind. There's just no other way. The other strategies and techniques of governance and the models of living and life have not worked, and that's what's got to happen. And they just treat it like it's this inevitable thing. And then when we come to people like Peter Sutherland, right? He was another one of these major architects in recent years. I doubt that I'll be able to find that because that was an old Telegraph article. Maybe on Yandex we can find that. Let's see. Carnegie Council for Ethics, Secretary General for Migration from 2006 to 2017. Wow. So here's a major character. Here we go. Here's the BBC. The EU should undermine national homogeneity, says UN Migration Chief. Here's the Carnegie Council. Carnegie Endowment, major international NGO think tank power structure right here. United Nations Special Representative to the Secretary General of International Migration for 11 years, key years from 2006 to 2017. Who does he work for? WTO, GATT and WTO. All Fabian socialist institutions right here. This is a 2012 article. Now, that's the institutions that you hear me talk about all the time. Here's the guy in charge of running all of this for 11 years, those key years that we're talking about. Do you think he didn't know what he was doing as the guy in charge of open borders migration? The incompetent libs! The libs are incompetent! They don't know what they're doing! This guy knew what he was doing, you idiot. You're the incompetent conservative who's actually a lib. What does his fifth tab say? The fifth tab is a treat for you guys. Gay rappers. We're not to the gay rappers section of the show yet, but I'm sure that some of you in the chat are very eager for that. Don't worry, we'll get to it. I think somebody thought they caught me. Oh, look, he's got a tab open of gay things. What does it say? Oh, turns out it's just gay rappers. Nah, dude, I'm not into Skittles stuff. But I am into exposing them rappers. Because them rappers is up to no good. Them rappers is gross. Ooh, nasty. What they doing over there? Nasty stuff. So, can you figure this out? Mid-wit conservatives? You have a guy in charge of running this at the biggest think tanks in the world, United Nations, GATT, Carnegie Endowment. It's the incompetent libs. They don't understand that if they open the borders up, it's going to harm the population and the people. I'm a conservative. You're the reason that things are so bad. It's the conservies they're the problem. Because you're too dumb to figure out what's going on. Even though it's literally right here in the BBC. Like, here's the guy that says, destroy Europe. Who's running a giant globalist institutions. I don't know if it's a plan or not. What's the evidence of it being a plan? Was there any proof? Are you a conspiracy theorist? Now, protests, here's thousands of French people protesting. Look at this. Oh, wait, excuse me. That's old. That's protesting Macron. Well, I mean, protesting Macron is protesting the same shit because he's another one of these socialist technocrats that's pushing all this stuff. Let's see. Let's go to Radio Genoa because they almost always have this kind of stuff up. Why is this happening in the UK? Because the Fabian Socialist Labour Party has had this plan for over 100 years. And I've lectured through this over and over and over. Islamic imam spits in the water to bless it. Allah forbids sleeping on your stomach. This is funny. Here we go. Did Japan just send a bunch of ninjas to attack? What the heck's going on? This actually looks like Pakistan, though, because if you look on the, or I don't know what language that is. If you look on the wall, I don't think that, I mean, that could be Europe, because maybe they have like entire Pakistan, African grocery stores. I don't know. I mean, if degenerate elites in the UK 100 years ago wrote about how they would flood the UK and Europe with Muslims, is that not enough for you idiot conservatives to figure out it's a plan? Like what is wrong with you people? How can you be so dense and so midwit? I don't understand. And for you trad cats, your Vatican pushes the same shit. Open the borders. Francis said it 100 times. And you expect us to submit to Rome? Are you insane? What is wrong with you people? Dona says, half of the signs in my town are Arabic. Well, guess what happens when you go to Houston? When you go to Houston, there are entire miles that you will drive where you see nothing but Cantonese billboards. Houston has the largest Chinese population, the largest immigrant population, as far as I understand, in America. Why is there a giant miles of billboards of Chinese billboards? So apparently, even Japan is having Muslims brought into Japan to destroy Japan. And here's Japanese people protesting. People in Spain can't go to work because the idiot cult of Islam is forcing everybody to shut down so they can pray in the streets to Allah. I mean, people are you guys are so naive, man. All of you right wingers that remember how all these for the last 4 or 5 years, all of you idiot right wingers believed and thought that the Muslim trad right wing alliance was going to work. Oh, Sneeko and Tate and we're going to make alliance with Islam. Islam is your enemy, you idiot. You're so dumb. Now, I fell for this too because I thought back in the 2000s, not that I wasn't into Islam, but I thought, oh, well, if the Big 9 event is making them the bad guys, then maybe they're not the real bad guys. No. That's way too naive. And what have we learned in the last 8 years of debating Muslims? This is the dumbest cult out there. It is dumber. It's probably dumber than Scientology. I mean, you have to be really dumb to believe what Islam teaches. And I didn't actually realize that until I got into studying it. So I'm really glad that we had the debates with the Muslims the last 7 or 8 years. Because had I not done that, I would have just assumed as a person from the outside looking in, well, they have like Bayes and Trad morals. And no, they don't, you idiot. They do not. It's a slow boy tarted religion. That's a cult for dum-dums. In fact, when I read C.S. Lewis's Narnia many years ago, in fact, I read it before I'd been doing a lot of these Muslim debates, I didn't even realize that A Horse and His Boy is a very subtle critique of Islam. Did you realize that? Did you know that? And what's funny about it is C.S. Lewis is basically calling Islam a pagan religion. And it's a genius way to critique that goofball cult religion. Why do you think it's so popular amongst people with 80 IQ? I'm not saying that IQ is everything in religion, but there is an element to which when they start critiquing the Trinity and the deity of Christ and all this stuff, and you start to see, wait a minute, these people can't make basic metaphysical distinctions. Even when their own position about Allah's attributes requires those metaphysical distinctions, they can't do it. It's like, did you guys remember when we did the 6 hours of asking the hypothetical questions? And we couldn't find a single Muslim who was able to entertain a hypothetical. They can't do it. Vindicating the meme, how would you have felt if you hadn't had breakfast today? And so basically we have religions and cults that appeal to people and hold people who max out at double-digit IQs. 90, 80, 85, that's it. So you're not talking to, you're talking to people who just can't do it. Yes, there is generational INBREEDIN, exactly. G. So in 72 British schools, there are basically no British students. There's 2 out of all of these. Here is Antwerp. So this is Germany is a giant. Now, all these idiot Muslims love this and they think that they're winning. They don't even realize that they're tools for this global elite. It's insane. Here's Brussels, and it looks like Kabul. This is Brussels. Like, I see one white dude in this whole cavalcade here. There's one fat white woman and all Muslims. Wow. Now, this couldn't be done and hasn't been done merely because there was one election that favored a bunch of liberal socialist candidates. You have to understand that the entire EU and the EU project was created by the OSS and the CIA on record. The Ratio book details that, going all the way into the European steel and coal conglomerate, which is the origin of it. The OSS putting together mountains of propaganda to promote the European project, which becomes the EU. There's the documents of the Bilderberg Group, which came out that the Bilderberg was planning the EU in its earliest meetings. And yes, they adopted the Count Coudenhove plan, as I've detailed many, many times over. I brought and have the book with me. So it's not a conspiracy. It's a real thing. He talks about it right here in his book, Practical Idealism. What book? The book I'm holding in my fucking hand, dude. You guys need to get with the program, man. Alexander, what's up, man? Let's take some calls.
Hey, Jay, how you doing, sir?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Obviously, no critiques. Just have 2 points that I feel like people don't really focus on. The first is like the generational divide that we have. Obviously, the boomers, when it comes to immigration, borders, geopolitics, they kind of sold us down. We all know that. But I call the Gen X boomer lights, and I feel like they're trying to make a mark on them as revitalizing the economy, and the backbone of their plan is just more immigration, more, bringing in people from India to drive the trucks and everything like that. That's why you see so many of them. They're just even big name political figures, just absolutely in the tank for guys like Vivek. You see state politicians in Ohio, taking photos with him with their kids who look like it's a, I don't know if you saw that photo of the state politician in Ohio taking a picture with Vivek with his kid. And the kid just looked like he was in a hostage situation. But they just want to make a mark for themselves as revitalizing the economy. And the way they view as doing that is through this egalitarian, open borders mindset where, anybody can be an American. Let's bring them all in. They're going to make America better, guys. Like, this is our time to, bring the economy back, And,
well, this was the whole thesis behind our first episode of the Sam Hyde Show.
Yeah.
Was this point?
Yeah. And an offshoot of that, my second major point is there's the specific type of those people would be like the evangelicals. And the problem that they have is that if you were to actually try to internally critique their mindset, they actually, when push comes to shove, don't rely on any Christian backing for the decision-making process. If you ask them, well, why can't we, for instance, make Christian laws in this country, well, they'll point to the First Amendment. But if you were to logically walk them through and say, hey, listen, say we got the majority of the states to, pass an amendment that abridged the First Amendment and made it where we could specifically pass a, type of Christian law or something like that, well, they wouldn't be in favor of that, even though it followed their, liberty first, democracy first process of, utilizing the Constitution as it's been laid out. Because when it comes down to it, most of the evangelicals, they have this false trinity they've set up where it's basically the Constitution, Scofield Bible, and an Nestorian Jesus. And that's really the trinity that they worship. They're always going to be liberty first. They're always going to worship the Constitution before anything else.
Yeah, and the other religions and worldviews do not believe in these separations, and they do not believe in abstaining from having power. So this is precisely why they will always lose, and eventually they will die out, because God is the source of power and providence and authority. He ordained and created the state. The state has a duty then to God and to Christian laws and morals. If it doesn't follow that, there will be penalties for that. And those penalties are exacted through things like massive Islamic immigration. So if Europe abandons its Christian heritage, the chastisement that you get is you're going to be ruled over by this crazy cult. And this has always happened in history, where when people don't follow God, when they don't keep the commands, they don't keep his law, they get ruled over. If the salt loses its savor, you get trampled on. And that's what's going to happen. So you either rule and do things the way that the Orthodox Church has laid down and the scriptures say, or you suffer the consequences and you're ruled over by these goons who will take power. And this whole idea that power is in the state is anti-Jesus, anti-Christian is a Baptist heresy that has led, and it's out of the Enlightenment, that has led to all this nonsense.
Oh yeah, I know. I was Baptist before I was, brought in. Before I went to the Orthodox Church now, so I know all about that. One of the big things that you'll notice is that a lot of these evangelical types, the Connic types, and stuff like that, they're so willing to team up with anti-Trinitarians. They'll team up with like the base Muslim, or a lot of them will they adore Mormons, for instance, and they'll group up with them, but they will slander and absolutely talk down upon anybody who's in the Orthodox Church who actually is Christian. But they'll team up with people who aren't Christians because, again, their first god is Libertas.
Yes.
That's who they worship, honestly.
Yeah, well, this is what you get with heresy. So the reason heresy is such a massive problem is not just individuals. Heresy also affects society as a whole. If you guys recall, we lectured through the massive scholarly tome by Malcolm Lambert some years back, Medieval Heresy. And we saw that the motivations that a lot of the kings in the Middle Ages had was to root out and to ban heresy. It wasn't because they were mean tyrants. Heresy had the effect of being socially revolutionary. So when we see, for example, the idea that Christians shouldn't have any role in government, there should be no Christian laws, etc., you're leaving a vacuum that wicked men fill, and then they put in place wicked laws. You're going to have Sharia law. You're going to have secular, tyrannical, socialist, Marxist law, whatever. Those things step in and fill the vacuum. So either Christians are faithful to their calling and get rid of the Enlightenment and Reformation presuppositions that they have. I mean, all of these Americanist people who are like the Americanist Orthodox people at Ancient Faith Radio, it's like everybody knows that we had Orthodox kings and the Orthodox Imperium. But they act like, no, what's sacrosanct is separation of church and state, meaning that there's no relationship between laws and society and God. So they're basically Baptist pietists who pretend to be Orthodox Christians and priests because they basically submit to the State Department and do the Americanist version of what Christianity is supposed to be. So their first and foremost deity is America, just like he pointed out, like the Baptists, the Dispensationalists. The Constitution, America, religious freedom is number one. Where is this anywhere? Okay, let's go to the first 1,000 years of Christianity or the scriptures. Where is this idea of religious freedom being the first and foremost hallowed, protected thing? It's not. It doesn't exist. It's all just assumptions. Post-Reformation, post-Enlightenment, that everybody just assumes that, oh, we all know that. How do we know that? So where does this come from? Here's Keir Starmer praising Islam. So you see, do you think these people are dumb? I just don't understand why you think these people are dumb. Hey, conservatives, it's you that's actually dumb, because you can't figure out that these people are cunning, psychotic, sociopathic, psychopathic technocrats. They're not dumb. They're evil. This is what you don't understand. You're the problem.
Single one of the government's missions. In business, helping to grow our economy. In education, giving our young people the opportunities that they deserve. In our NHS, of course. In charity work. British Muslims are amongst the most generous group in the United Kingdom.
So, do you think he doesn't know what's going on in his country? He's part of the Fabian Socialist elite who want that for the country, and they've had it as a plan for 100 years plus. I've shown you the books so many times. They said they would start with Oxford University bringing in Sufis. Why did they start with Sufis? Because Sufism was cool and like syncretist, and it was a little more applicable to open-minded professorial types. And then when they brought in more and more Muslims, then they started bringing in the Wahhabi, Salafi, real Muslims. But they couldn't bring in the Salafis immediately. They actually said, we'll bring them in gradually. Gradualism. That's the meaning of Fabian Socialism. Gradual transformation. Wow. So Paris, France is now Africa.
Да, Париж уже не той. Я не думав, що я себе тут буду відчувати білою вороною. Да,
Well, yeah, but what about Russia? Russia's got millions of Muslims.
Yeah, it's a mistake there too. I mean, unfortunately, people in Russia think that there is this trad alliance between Islam and Orthodox Christianity. Just as foolhardy as all of these people and the trad cats in America. Just as dumb. Whoa. Oh, here's this ridiculous Shia nonsense where they slap themselves for Ali. Ali! Anyway, I mean, I don't know what else to say. Like, we've covered this countless times for so many years. People don't listen. They think, oh, you won't talk about Jews. Muslims are good. Really? Really? Okay. Good luck with that. Let's see. We've covered that. What is this? Okay. Did you know there's new Epsteln files? Shocker. And it vindicates what we've talked about.
The file leak that just happened from Ehud Barak, the ex-prime minister of Israel, one of Epstein's very good buddies, thousands of his emails were leaked online. And like alternative sources are talking about it, but the mainstream media, totally silent. Radio silence. And I have spent the last, I don't even know how long, just going down the rabbit hole. And I'm about to take you with me. This is just the start. This is just preliminary reporting. There's a lot of files, and just figuring out how to even analyze them has been a whole process. But through that process, working with my buddy over here on one screen and the reports on the other screen, and getting AI involved to write code that would scrape and then combine and then analyze. By the end of this, we're going to get to how they were surveilling the Hillary Clinton campaign. Oh yeah. And Putin and Jeff Bezos, Bill Clinton, Benjamin Netanyahu, and there's links that will go to email report. But first, I just want to tell you how we got here. Because when you actually download the leaked emails, they come from 2 different emails. But when you go into those emails, there is just this whole mess of folders. And in each one, there's more folders with different things. And each of these files is an individual email, right? But we're talking like 50,000 emails or more, each individual files.
Oh yeah, but I mean, Epstein sending 50,000 emails to Ehud Barak. That's just because they were hanging out doing science. It's not because Jeff Stein McEffrey was working as in Israeli intelligence in any capacity. It's because they were like sharing, like cheat codes for video games and ideas for scientific discoveries and how to help the countries that they work in to promote the general welfare. That's what it was about. What do you mean? Like, of course, there's thousands of emails between them, even though he didn't have any connection to Israeli intelligence. I mean, imagine not knowing this by now. I mean, this is so stupid, right? They were just doing science, man. Why don't you trust the science and stop being a hate monger?
All these different folders. How the fuck are we going to analyze them? So lately, I've been playing.
But what's to analyze? Because it does not. There's no connection other than just being friends, sharing science. They're science friends. Why would you think there's anything other than being a science friend? Fucking science, bro. We're just studying earthworms and shit, man. We're trying to get to the bottom of how to heal cancer, dude. Jamie, could you make me an espresso? We're working together with Jeff Stein McEffrey and Ehud Barak on healing cancer and saving the world. Why would you try to stop us? Huh? I'm working with Jeff Stein McEffrey and Ehud Barak on healing cancer. Why are you trying to stop us?
I don't believe that's what you're doing.
They're just sharing science. Why are you being weird?
I'm not the weird one. Even on the Zorro Ranch, that's pretty weird.
So he likes Zorro. I mean, I like. Who doesn't like Antonio Banderas? He played a great Zorro. So Jeff Stein McEffrey's bad because he likes Zorro. Whoa, yeah. Good job, Temple Hat. I got a science friend, and his name is Ehud Barak and Jeff Stein McEffrey. We're doing some science together. We got a test tube, and we got a little dreidel, and we spin it, and we do some alchemy, yeah. Alchemy, together with science. And secrets of life, we're gonna heal cancer. We're doing science, yeah. Just me and my science friends. We're doing science, yeah. We're gonna heal the world. Tikkun olam is science, yeah. Anyway, there's material for a funny song there. William Money. The tariffs were the backbone of American sovereignty. Cosmic Dump Sauce, $5. Jay, put the super chat image over on the right. Yeah, I moved it. Thank you. It was popping up over my face because I moved the camera, so I moved the super chat thing. CK, 3 months member. Papacy is it spiritually blinds people. It's like a zombie virus. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It is. It's like dealing with the zombies, man. Submit to Rome because the Rome. I mean, basically, if you submit to Rome, you're submitting to Zionism. So think of it that way. So try to make me. So wait, I thought you don't want me to submit to Zionism, but you want to submit to Rome. I don't understand. AC, $5. Submit to not submitting. It's the new Avignon papacy. There we go. Troorthodox, $10. The occult elites are the root cause of all the degeneracy and collapse. They are merely, or are they merely accelerants? Would humanity have a downfall of its own, or without them, or would it be at a slower pace? Who knows? We don't live in, the alternate realities, man in the high castle scenario, so we don't know what it would be like otherwise. But one thing that people don't like, the world's problems are not Jewish people. The world's problems are not China. The world's problems are not all one thing. Now, maybe our national foreign policy and stuff like that and free speech, yes, AIPAC has a huge amount of control. They seem to tell us what to do. Sure. But man's problem, as Jesus said, is his heart. Man has to have a change of heart, has to have repentance. That's the root of the problem. Because otherwise, he's just kind of, by default, serving Satan. AC, $2. Jahonka savior syndrome. Yeah, so basically liberal whites are so anti-racist that they are reverse racist because they want to save all the brown people. Slowboy Whiteboard, $5. Bianca Fights the Zombies broke down every Hollywood propaganda piece that had blue-eyed blonde Christians, and it's basically all of them. Okay, that must be a channel. Yeah, I mean, we've noticed for a long time that this is where I wear the glasses, because apparently I'm a villain because I have bright blue eyes, if you see me in person. So I'm having to hide my appearance because I'm apparently a Hollywood villain because of my genetics. LDM, £2. Jay, I love your work. Much love from Romania. Argus, $10. Jay, what's your favorite Muslim country in Europe? All of them. Islam is its own nation. It is the nation of Islam. Actually, the nation of Islam with Yaqub is my favorite Muslim country, which isn't technically Muslim, but one day, we can hope, we'll all be Yaqubians. B. Ryan, $2. Who coined the term Skittles? Me. Gelato Boy, gifted 5 memberships. What's up? Hauling the Goods, $5. This is off topic, but talking about heresy. Oh my gosh. No, I told you guys I'm not dealing with calendar questions. Jeff Stein McEffrey was obviously just emailing science tips on how to heal cancer and harvesting things from people. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. I don't know why everybody's making a big deal about this. It's 10,000 emails about holistic medicine cures, healing broken limbs, healing cancer, stopping smoking. I'm sure Jeff Stein McEffrey was very interested in how do we get people to stop smoking. It's bad for their health. Again, you guys need to, why are you hating on people that are trying to help?
With AIs in terms of helping find sources, helping dig through complex details and data, and helping get to primary sources. And or in this case, aggregate thousands of email files.
So it looks like so far, I was reading about what's come out so far, and it looks like it's just I mean, I'm not saying this is the only thing that's come out, but here's another video covering it. Let's see what this says.
Documents have surfaced revealing startling details about the relationship between Jeffrey Epstein and former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak, shedding new light on Epstein's global connections and his involvement in the surveillance industry. Leaked emails suggest that Epstein wasn't just a financier of secretive projects.
So this one is interesting. It seems to be talking about getting close to the circles of Peter Thiel. And let's be clear here, not every one of these emails means these people are compromised. What the emails show is we want to get close to and get in the circles of these people. So maybe they are, maybe they aren't, we don't know, but that's what this shows, which again shows that, well, then obviously he was doing this on behalf of...
but was actively seeking to shape the future of global security with the help of powerful figures. Following his arrest for sex crimes, Epstein sought a new career path in the surveillance sector. In 2015, he partnered with Barak to invest in a security tech startup, Reporty Homeland Security, now known as Carbine. But this wasn't just about business. Epstein aimed to build connections with influential global figures. The leak of over 100,000 emails from former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak's inbox paints a picture of Jeffrey Epstein not just as a financier, but as someone eager to sit at the crossroads of private wealth and global surveillance. Among the revelations, Epstein was reportedly arranging a meeting with Peter Thiel, the PayPal co-founder and Palantir CEO, in 2014. Epstein even asked Barak to spend real time with Thiel to build further connections.
And moreover, it's extremely obvious to anyone who watches that this guy had direct connections to a foreign government. Now, no one's allowed to say that that foreign government is Israel because we have been somehow cowed into thinking that that's naughty. There is nothing wrong with saying that.
These shocking details have reignited discussions around Epstein's mysterious ties, with right-wing pundit Tucker Carlson even suggesting that Epstein had been working with Israeli intelligence during the years he was allegedly trafficking minors. Carlson, speaking at the Turning Point USA summit, added fuel to the ongoing conspiracy theories surrounding Epstein's ties to global power networks. Epstein's efforts weren't just limited to Silicon Valley. In 2015, he introduced Barack to Russian business elites, connected to Vladimir Putin's circle. Leaked emails show Epstein positioning himself as an apolitical go-between, offering advice to navigate US sanctions and suggesting meetings with Russian officials on markets and financial systems. Epstein's interest in surveillance...
Now, as you know, we've covered many times over and for a few years now, Whitney Webb's excellent book, Volume 2, from my publisher, International Blackmail Volume 2, about Maxwell and Epstein. And so I think if you've read this text, and as we have, and we've promoted it, recommended it, not really anything in this is that surprising. It's kind of like, yeah, this is just further confirmation of what was obvious. However, to a lot of the public and the normies out there, this is apparently still not obvious. So it's like, man, you guys need to get with the picture, dude. Like, this is obvious and well known now.
Surveillance technology was more than just financial. He was deeply involved in tech discussions, asking Barack about emerging...
I mean, this is not anything revelatory. I'm not saying the emails aren't revelatory. I'm sure they will be. I'm saying this point, like, yeah, of course he was involved in all these tech transhumanist ventures. There's whole chapters in Whitney Webb's book on that.
Trends like cyber warfare, artificial intelligence, and Israeli military strategies.
What? Nuh-uh. That's just science. He's just sharing science tips with science friends. That's it.
Through reporting, Epstein sought to influence emergency response technologies, even engaging with a former Israeli intelligence officer to keep tabs on these developments. Despite Epstein's involvement, Barack tried to distance himself publicly. In 2019, after Epstein's rearrest, Barack announced he was dissolving his partnership with Epstein. But as the leaked emails show, their ties were deep, with Barack seeking Epstein's investment advice for other ventures, including Levitation, an electromagnetic imaging startup. These emails offer a rare glimpse into Epstein's network of influence, one that spanned across industries and borders. As the fallout continues, the implications of Epstein's relationships with global power players like Barack, Thiel, and Russian elites raise troubling questions about the intersection of surveillance, technology, and international power. With the leaks now public, the ripple effects are only just beginning.
So it's going to be interesting to see as people dig through these what is actually going on, right? Jaden? What's up, man? I'm you.
And turn them all into one.
Hey, how you doing, Jay?
Good, what's up?
Hey, thank you so much for adding me to the call. It's an honor to speak with you. Hey, I just had a quick question. I'm about to finish this book. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, Against Our Better Judgment by Allison Weir. Just regarding the establishment of the state of Israel. And I understand that Israel is a different, political and theological sense, but I've been looking into orthodoxy recently, and I've just been doing quick little chat GPTs. I know that's usually not a good way to catecheme somebody, but could you give an explanation or the orthodox explanation of replacement theory and supersessionism? Because when I read the Catholic explanation, it makes sense to me, but I tend to not agree with most things that are Catholic. Thanks to you, I'm leaning towards more orthodoxy. But then when I look up the Orthodox position on replacement theology and supersessionism, I find it a little hard to understand. I'm not saying that it's wrong. I just would like a better explanation from someone like you.
Well, when you say I read the Catholic position, I don't know what the Catholic position is because it keeps evolving and morphing. And in 2003, the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops, basing itself on Nostra Aetate and Vatican II, said that Jews shouldn't be converted. So who knows what the Catholic position is, because the post-Vatican II Catholic position is basically like dispensationalism. However, Jesus is very clear in Matthew 21 that the nation-state of Israel was divorced.
Yeah, that's exactly what I assumed, and I only asked this because I'm not a Protestant, but I have a close long-term family friend that is a Protestant pastor, and I asked him just a simple, explanation of why he supports Israel the way he does, and he still believes in the Old Covenant, and he says it's really because of the Book of Revelations. And then as I was explaining my position, my thought process, he said, "Oh, well, you sound like someone that is a fan of replacement theology. That the Christians are the new Israel. That we are now God's chosen people."
Yeah, the New Testament says that like dozens of times. So whoever you're talking about is an ignorant, brainwashed dispensationalist.
That's what I was assuming. The only reason why I wanted your position was because when I was reading what the conclusive Orthodox position was, it seemed to say that Orthodox tend to stay away from the term replacement, and they do believe in the new Israel, but they don't like calling it replacing. They still say that Jews have a part of God's plan.
Well, Jews will be saved in the future. The Eastern Church Fathers believe and speak consistently about a future conversion of the Jews. So Jews are still Jews, but Rabbinic Judaism is essentially a cult that has set itself against Orthodox Christianity and against Christ. So both of those things are true at the same time, and that's why we say that, as Romans 11 says, when Jews convert, they can be grafted back in.
Okay, makes total sense. That's exactly the answer I was hoping to hear. But yeah, thank you so much. I could probably sit on here and ask questions all day, but I want to give somebody else the chance. Every time you do one of these, I want to jump on and ask a question, but I don't want to be that guy.
No, it's good. Those are good questions, man. Just pop back in anytime. Excommunicado. Excommunicado, what's up?
Hi, Jay. Orthodox Serb here. I have one question. It's about my debates with Protestants regarding how do we believe to saints and church fathers. They say Bible is infallible, but tradition and the rest of things they're not fallible. Why do we believe them? Among other things, I say because they lived holy life. Many of them ascetics in fasting, and they have so much grace. They could perform miracles, prophesying. That's the reason. And they respond whether those miracles are from Satan or even lies, fallacies. How do you?
Well, I wouldn't go that. If you're debating with a Protestant, I wouldn't go the route of trying to prove to them that our saints are holy, because they're just going to immediately filter it out, because they need to have their presuppositions challenged. So I would debate with them about the notion of tradition itself and the formation of the biblical canon, because if that falls, Protestantism will fall. But will fall. And that's what always happens. That's what happened to me, and most people who convert from Protestant to Orthodoxy, they have that process of conversion. You're never going to convert a Protestant by trying to prove to them that our saints are holy, because they're just going to filter it out and hand wave it. Psy Girl, what's up? Psy Girl, what's up?
Yeah, I hate to blindside you with this because it's more political than theological. And you were probably too young at the time to think about it much. But if you've seen the movie Charlie Wilson's War, you probably know all about the Cold War effort of the United States to support the Islamic Mujahideen against the Soviet Union. And I'm wondering which side you would have taken in that conflict, or would you have just stood back and not gotten involved at all, as opposed to the Reagan administration and Zbigniew Brzezinski, who actively supplied the Mujahideen against Moscow. And after all, Moscow is still the third Rome, is it not?
First of all, I've been aware of that for 20 years. I've lectured on Brzezinski's books, that whole strategy. We just covered it actually about a month ago. We did a whole 300-page book on that topic by Max Blumenthal. So I'm very familiar with Representative Charlie Wilson, the support for the Mujahideen. There's no easy answer to that because of the complexities of the Cold War. But overall, I think the Cold War was a long-term false dialectic to transition the world into a technocracy. So I don't believe in Sovietism or the NKVD, but I also don't believe in Western atheistic capitalism. So I don't really care for any of them. So I'm not sure what your question assumes that I'm supposed to choose some side of this conflict. Why?
Well, because the Mujahideen clearly represented fundamentalist Islam, whereas at the very least, even the Soviet Union, even though under the Bolsheviks, is still the residence of the Third Rome.
No, that's crazy. Why would Bolshevism have anything to do with the Third Rome when their whole goal was to stamp out the Tsar and the Christian monarchy?
Because Stalin formed an alliance with the Russian Orthodox Church.
No, he didn't. No, he didn't. He infiltrated it and tried to install KGB bishops, and they had a 3-tiered system where they marked the bishops that were compliant, the ones that were possibly compromisable or compliant, and the ones that were absolutely not compromisable. So you've oversimplified something that was way more complex than that.
So with respect to the Afghan Mujahideen, is it fair to say you would have stood aside from that conflict and been sort of a conscientious objector to even getting involved in it because you wouldn't want to pick sides between Bolshevism and fundamentalist Islam? Does that summarize your view?
Well, Stalin tried to stave off some of the problems that Bolshevik revolution caused. One of those was the massive delinquency and single children that resulted from Bolshevism pushing free love and pushing gay rights, all that kind of stuff, abortion. So it's part of the reason that Stalin made the NKVD have these anti-homosexual and anti-degeneracy policies had nothing to do with him being Orthodox. He was an atheist. But he saw that that was a better approach to stopping Bolshevik collapse than continuing to allow it to happen. So he tried to take on kind of a, I forget there's a guy named something like Ustinov or something, that he was influenced by these guys who thought that there should be some allowance for the church, but they needed to be submissive to the Soviet state. But you're completely wrong that has anything to do with the Third Rome. So you sound like a brainwashed neocon who believes a bunch of nonsense about the Third Rome, as if that's like Sovietism, which is retarded.
Well, after the fall of Constantinople, at least in a technical sense, the center of Eastern Orthodoxy did, in fact, migrate.
Did I say that there's not a Third Rome? I said that Sovietism has nothing to do with the Third Rome. That's retarded.
What about the current Russian Federation?
How about you go be a neocon boomer and live out your existence in that retarded bullshit? How's that?
Okay, Grandma. Go back to the diner and get some tater tots and some Virginia Slims, Grandma. Go back to the box of wine, Grandma.
I don't have the patience to debate a retarded boomer right now. Hauling the goods. No, we're not doing that. Job. I know we read that. Intel Wild. Do you think Destiny will go to prison? I have no idea what is going on, but I hope so. He seems like a complete just piece of trash. Is there some update that Destiny might go to jail? I mean, these boomers, man. There's nobody more arrogant and stupid than these boomers that are brainwashed. Destiny will be going to trial. This is just random. Actually, this is old, so I don't know if this is true. Let's see, latest. I wish you could actually look up the recent news on here, but you can't. If you search a topic, when you hit, this is what's so annoying about the way this is set up right now. You get the top post from February 19th. I don't care about February. Like, that's not relevant anymore. But if I go to the latest, I get infinite gibberish bots that are just, this is why this is so, I mean, this thing is still broken. They need to fix this. And the worst of all is if you try to look up crypto news, right? Because if you want to see something up to date, obviously, all you get is 1,000 crypto bots in the replies, which is completely worthless. Keem. Argus, $5. Who is better? The persons that hate the Orthodox religion or the other guys that hate it? Yeah. It's just so, like, boomers can never get out of dialectics, right? It's like they're just completely enmeshed in dialectical conflicts and either ors. And so, like, the whole question just assumes that there's some, like, either or that I'm supposed to choose. Do you want Satan or Lucifer? Choose wisely. Unmute. Keem.
Hello?
Yep.
You know, I hear you say often about submitting to Rome, but you should actually be submitting to Jerome, you know, BLM. No, but on a more serious note, I hear, like, on a lot of these protests, they're complaining about replacement, which is fine, and I actually agree on a lot of that topic. But what I commonly see in these protests are guys that are like 40 and older dudes. And especially in Australia, an extremely liberal country where the birth rates are extremely far down and it's extremely atheistic and agnostic, I wonder what these people believe. Who's going to fight? Like, who's going to fight off the Muslims? Because they're willing to blow themselves up for their beliefs, and you can't really battle that ideology with atheism.
No, that's absolutely right. I don't know how anyone thinks they're going to fix this by, protesting, bitching about your socialist government? Well, I mean, you guys have been atheist as a society, like he's saying, for decades. That's what I'm, like, one of the reasons we focus on people at an individual level converting and having a change and getting into orthodoxy is that's the best thing at a local organic level to change things. Like, trying to change the society politically is for ignorant 20-year-olds. By the time you're 40, you realize that that's pretty much futile. So all of these people that are thinking they're going to do that, well, they're going to wise up. They're going to learn that what I'm saying is right as they get older. Eastern, what's up? So I don't know. I mean, people are saying Europe will be in a civil war. I mean, who's going to fight? A bunch of, like, 40-year-old pub goers that worship English soccer? They're not going to fight. All they have to do is keep providing them endless bread and circuses. And, like, what are they going to fight for?
You hear me?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So I'm a catechumen. I had a question. I was reading John Damascus, and he was talking about basically, like, how the Father is eternally the Father, and that's, like, just, like, necessary. But with him being the creator, and I'm probably, like, confusing his essence and energies here. But with him being the creator, is creation like an energy, or is it like he would not have to eternally be a creator? Or am I just, like, way off? Like,
well, he eternally has the power of creating, but he's not eternally a creator. So he actualizes the power of creating when he wills to create. But the generating of the sun is not an action of will, and the sun is not a product of energy. So this is something that the Capitulatians argue against Eunomius, because Eunomius says any action is an energy, is a work, therefore the sun being generated is an energy, and therefore the sun is a work, therefore he's a creature. And the Capitulatians say, no, there's different types of things that God does, different types of works. The action of generating is not an action of will, it's of the Father's nature. So the Son is eternally generated by necessity because God is eternally a Father. But God is not necessarily eternally a actualizing creator. He eternally has the power of creating, but he's not eternally a creator until he wills to create. So that's the difference between different types of things that God does.
would that cause any problems for him being immutable? Or no.
No, because to actualize the power of creating doesn't necessitate or lead to any change in God or in his essence.
Okay. And then I have one more question. It's basically, when you have like a holdout, like I think it was Saint Maximus the Confessor, and you have stuff like that.
A holdout? What do you mean?
Like, maybe I'm getting the saint wrong, but when you have a large part of the church in heresy.
Oh yeah.
Basically, how do you know that they're right, or how do you know what the true faith is if like majority of the church has
well, the
gone
true faith isn't determined by the majority. So knowing the true faith, according to what is said in 1 John says you have an anointing and you know all things. He's not saying you have omniscience. He's saying that the Holy Spirit, when you were chrismated, guides you to know what is true. And so as long as our motives are sincere and we trust God, God's going to lead us to truth. There's nothing, it's not Protestant to say that the individual Christian or Orthodox Christian can know the truth. The difference is that there's times where there's confusion, there's times where there's chaos. It doesn't mean that you can't know the truth, even if a lot of people are confused, and even if you're in the minority, because truth isn't determined by majority. It's just that there are rare instances in church history where the majority can be wrong, like in the Arian crisis or the iconoclast crisis. A large portion of the church was iconoclast, and it was wrong. So the means of knowing the true faith are what was the faith prior to that time. So if we're in the 7th century and there's a controversy about icons or something like that, how are we going to know what the true faith is when a lot of the people don't believe it? Well, we look at what was the faith of the last 7 centuries. So that's one of the means, but ultimately we know that God will guide us to truth because we have an anointing and we know all things.
Okay. Oh yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's actually a good question, because I think people overlook this because they think that, not you, but like when people talk about like, usually it's like the Roman Catholic mindset. Let me see. So John is writing to us who've been chrismated, talking about this anointing of the Holy Spirit, right? You have the unction of the Spirit and you know all things. So if we're actually living our Christian faith and we're living according to Christ's teaching and living in the life of the church, we will have the gift of discernment. We will have the unction to know all things. We're not going to be, I have no idea what's true. We don't. This is the difference between us and the Roman Catholic position. The Roman Catholic position, it's almost like it doesn't even grasp that the individual Christian can have a direct knowledge of the power and work of the Holy Spirit. It's like, you do what Rome says. Well, how do I know I'm interpreting Rome right? Look at the interpreters of the Holy Father's words. Okay, well, are they infallible? So it's this never-ending hamster wheel spiral. And again, this is not in isolation. Okay, this is not some Pentecostal thing where it's like the Apostle John is teaching that you have the anointing of the Holy Spirit and you don't need the bishops or the church. It's in concert with the rest of divine revelation. But you'll notice that, Roman Catholics are supposed to have chrismation, right? Confirmation. Well, what significance does that even have in the Roman Catholic system? Basically nothing. And yet, because why? Well, they don't believe in the direct energetic presence and action and knowledge of God. You only know created effects. And the created effects are some kind of like hierarchy that's run by the Pope. It's just ridiculous. So it kind of reminds me of, I think there was this phrase that Kant said, and I'm taking it out of context because Kant was talking about, he said something like self-imposed slavery. And he's talking about the Enlightenment and philosophy, but that's the best application, not for Kantianism. I'm not promoting Kantian philosophy. I'm just saying that principle is true, that like people want to be enslaved. Like that's the weird part, is like people want to be enslaved to these idiotic systems, and they're their own worst enemies. That's the problem here. And so people want to project as if all the problems are everyone else, and sometimes the problems are other people. But in many cases, you're your own worst enemy. You're the real problem. Jad?
Hello?
Yeah, what's up?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Uh-huh.
Hey, Jay, it's Gene. I have a different
Oh, hey, what's
Twitter
up, man?
name now. But I was going to ask, not so much. I was going to ask a quick question. Since we're on the topic of, like, Catholicism and all that, I've noticed, and I'm sure you've noticed, there's, like, a strain of some Eastern Orthodox, I don't know if they're all cradle or convert, and they tend to be trying to, like, correct what most of Orthodoxy is, if you know what I mean? I mean, we refer to them sometimes as, like, Latinizers.
Mm-hmm.
I think most Orthodox, you in particular, are not, good enough at original sin, and we've strayed too far from the West or something. I obviously don't believe those claims, but what would you say about this weird chronically online habit, this little phenomenon where these guys are trying to, re-Latinize Orthodoxy and make it less different than the Western churches? What do you think of that?
Yeah, in fact, it's great timing that Errors of the Latins just came out because although George was not directly intending to write this book to combat Latinizers, it actually ends up providentially being a great refutation of these people. So, as we pointed out in the Tim Gordon debate, this 2-volume series is really good. It's out. You can get over here at Uncut Mountain Press. I've been going through both volumes, finding quite a bit of excellent gems in this. And what we start to notice is that, no, the Orthodox conception of original sin or ancestral sin is not wrong. We didn't all misread it. And in fact, one of these main people the other day that was pushing this on Twitter, turns out he's not even Orthodox. He goes to a Melkite church. So it's like, nobody should be listening to these self-published anonymous weirdos who never tell who their bishop or their priest is or anything like that. They just push their self-published nonsense online to a bunch of ignorant and, new convert, catechumen, inquirer people. So if you actually are serious about refuting and rebutting a lot of this stuff, Errors of the Latins is great because it's all of the ethos of the errant Latin positions. It's not just a question of, do we believe in Augustinian original sin? First of all, they don't even understand that Augustine's conception of original sin is bound up with his Neoplatonism. He thinks that all men are in Adam as in an archetype. And that's not the Orthodox conception. And so you'd have to buy into Neoplatonism and his conceptions. And guess what? I've already done a 3-hour talk for you guys. And I've already gone through this. This is another reason why I know what's right on this position is that I was in the exact same boat as these people in 2007. I was stuck in a lot of these Augustinian and Western and Latin ideas of original sin, and I struggled with it. But I didn't understand the type of metaphysics and anthropology that you read about in a book like Free Choice in St. Maximus. And when you read St. Maximus's approach, that there's different systems here between Augustine, Origen, and St. Maximus, right? They have different accounts of creation, fall, grace, and eschaton, all three of them. And so you've really only got 3 options in the history of theology, unless you want to be a Protestant, Calvinist, or something like that. You're going to have to choose Maximus's account of Genesis, kinesis, and stasis, or you're going to have to choose Origen or Augustine. Obviously, for the Orthodox position, the explicitly developed, and I don't mean that in the Roman Catholic development of doctrine sense, but the explicated sense of all this is found in St. Maximus. None of these people have significantly read St. Maximus, and so they should be discarded. They don't even know how to cash out a non-dialectical conception of willing after the fall or in the eschaton. So don't waste your time with any of these people, and if you want a talk, here's my 3-hour talk on this subject, and then you won't burden yourself with listening to a bunch of 20-year-old Melkites. Troy Orthodox, $10. On X, I create custom lists of trusted accounts. Okay, maybe I need to do that. These will auto-update, and it'll filter out junk. Never touch the For You. Yeah, no, I absolutely never do the For You. So I'm ahead of you on that account. So here's the link to get volume 1 and 2 of Against the Latins right here by George. Great book. Already been making profuse use of the book. Does anybody know what the story is with Destiny? Is Destiny going to jail or like what? I have no idea what's the story with this. I know it has to do with revenge, prawn, and whatever kind of thing he was running, but like I don't know about court and court case stuff. Put away the sword, $1. Put away. If orthodoxy is true, then how come Orthodox priests bless soldiers? Because the church has always blessed soldiers because they're about to die. Does orthodoxy serve the state? Well, church history is complex, and every church has had to deal with the relationship of church and state. So the fact that you're looking at Orthodox priests blessing soldiers, not only is that that's not anti-Christian, that's actually the historic Christian practice. So you're ignorant of church history because all priests in all nations have always blessed soldiers before going to battle because they're about to die. So of course, how would that disprove Orthodox Christianity? That's just ignorance. A Panini, $5. I'll think Tucker is legit when he has the full interview with KGB sorcerer Jay Dyer. Hey, I'm looking forward to that. If that ever happens, it would be a great thing. I'd be very thankful and appreciative. I feel like, if you're going to have people like Doug Wilson on, like, I got a lot better material than Doug Wilson. So, Jub. No, we read that. Brendan Turner, $3. GOP Republicans will be pro-trans in 5 to 10 years. They're actually mostly pro-Skittles now. Yeah, exactly. But I'm not just talking about the normie Republican. I'm actually talking about the supposed, the Matt Knowles, the Matt Walshes, and the Michael Knowleses, and these kind of people. Like, even these people are like, they don't really know what's going on. Bob Dog, $10. I know you don't know anything about soccer, but English is the premier successful soccer league. It's $1 billion industry. I'm aware of that. It has a lot to do with geopolitics too. The British government is trying to regulate it to make it better. It's the next big thing to destroy. What? I guess. I don't. Why would they want to destroy it? It's like bread and circuses. Justinian, $3. I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong. I just don't know. What do you think about Ukrainian Autocephalous Church? I've never been to one. I don't know. I know that they were saying some pretty nasty, bad stuff because that guy gave an icon to Putin, which just seems like proper protocol. I grew up Protestant. I got into Gnosticism, but now I'm seeking Jesus and the church. I would say look for a ROCOR or Serbian Orthodox Church. Or maybe even Antiochian. Orthodox Clips became a member. What's up, dude? Rossi, what do you think about Gödel's ontological proof? Could you combine it with Tag? No, not really, because the ontological argument, I have an essay critiquing that on my website. So you could go look up my critique of the ontological argument, and that would apply to Anselm and Gödel's version. You could make a transcendental version of the ontological argument, but as it is, it wouldn't work any more than the other classical arguments work, because they assume a whole bunch of things that won't be granted. What do you think about Rastafarians? Rastafarians don't actually have a theology. It's a very non-theological tradition, if you want to call it that. Now, I do like to remind people about rappers and the rap community that it's fake and gay.
Shakur, and I attend Tampere High School, and I'm 17 years old.
Do you like being 17?
It's like 17 is such a weird age. It's such a in the middle age. You're not 18 yet, and you're older than 16. But I like it. It's nice. It's like a learning stage for me.
Do you wish you could be 18 and when you get some more rights?
Well, 18 will bring lots of responsibilities that I don't want, but it'll bring respect that I feel like that's the only way I can get it. You know, I try to be as mature as I can be and demand it wherever I can get it. But 18 is like, you're an adult.
What's funny about the rappers is that all the other rappers for years were all saying all the other rappers are fake and gay. Then it turns out they're all fake and gay. I just thought that was funny and a little bit of a reminder there. I thought there was actually more to this story because I saw a thing pop up saying that there was more gay rapper drama going on or something, but it turns out that was all a bunch of fake, like people were just trolling, which is funny, but it didn't actually end up being the story I thought it was going to be. So I turned on, I searched gay rappers, and Leonardo, our friend, is the first one that came up here talking about how the rappers are all fake and gay. Let's see, we covered that. Bobby, what's up? Rappers is faking gay. What's up, man? Bobby? Alfredo. Fredo Corleone, what's up? I'm mute.
Hello, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
AJ, so I've heard you talk about the transcendental argument for God. It's very compelling. You know, we get knowledge, morality from God. But I want you to expound upon that in terms of, you know, how does that relate to the specific Judeo-Christian God? I haven't quite yet figured out how this character that we have in the Bible could be that God that we have in the transcendental argument. It seems like, you know, from what I'm reading in the scriptures, that the God in the Bible isn't moral. He seems to be evil. You know, it's a character. So
Okay.
if you can explain.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've got tons of videos on that. You can go watch those videos. So, but that's just another one of these pagans. He's not really answering that question. Just another pagan bringing the same bullshit. What's up, man?
Hey, Jay.
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. Not necessarily to derail the conversation, but my question was, I would say, over the last year of kind of, you know, going through the information that you kind of provide, you know, in relation to geopolitics, some of the, you know, more considered, you know, conspiratorial information. What my question was, how do you see it necessarily playing out in terms of, you know, do you just kind of see like, well, I'm providing the information so that the people are aware, but necessarily, you know, what that will amount to, you know, is kind of unclear. Do you see it as, you know, I am potentially providing, you know, a catalyst for people, you know, to resist in the future, you know, like, you know, once there's enough people, you know, to kind of, you know, have their eyes, quote unquote, open in relation to the, you know, kind of like a larger picture. And then I would say outside of that, you know, you personally, you know, like, do you see this as a necessary step, you know, in order to be able to, let's say, you know, let's see the powers that, you know, affect, you know, things kind of in the background, or is it just something, you know, that kind of becomes like, well, you know, I'm particularly interested in this field of studies, you know, this information is interesting, but it's not necessarily crucial, you know, for somebody to be on board with all the pieces. Does that make sense?
It sounds like a Fed question, so good job. Yeah, I'm glad you think that's funny.
No.
Yeah, sure, yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to start an army, right? That's a joke. Beldner, what's up? You can go hang out with Jessica Chastain and do your Savant work. What's up, man? I'm mute.
Oh, can you hear me? Hello?
Mm-hmm.
Hello, Jay, or Dyer, sorry. I'm an agnostic, and I'm also a Kantian, like a transcendental idealist. I wanted to know if you want to debate about God's existence.
Okay.
Sure. Do you just present the argument, and we can talk about it?
Do I what?
Do you just want to, like, present the argument, and then we can talk about it?
I don't have the energy to go and represent the entire argument. I've presented it 1,000 times. I mean, if you know the argument, then let's just skip that.
Okay. So I'll just begin. So I believe asking for a grounding of logical absolutes like law of non-contradiction misrepresents what they actually are, like under Kant's framework. Under Kant's framework, we would not be permitted to apply things like substance inherence or maybe even causality to these things because they are fundamentally two different types of things.
So how do you know? How do you know that every other mind is operating in the phenomenal, is operating the way that Kant thinks the mind works if it's in the noumenal realm?
Well, the mind isn't exactly like in the noumenal realm like that. Like the transcendental subject being like the I think.
Do you wait? So you have access to other people's mind?
I'm sorry. What?
Do you have empirical access to other people's minds?
No, because we want to talk about like the empirical mind, right?
Do you have access to other people's subjective mental experiences?
No, we don't.
Okay, so how do you know that they operate the way that Kant's categories claim they operate?
Like space and time in the categories?
Any of them. In the minds themselves. How do you know that everybody has the same type of categories and structures?
Well, we can like deduce them, like in the
How?
deduction, right?
But you don't have access to that information.
Like, what's the possibility?
You just said you don't have
experiencing
access to that information.
Well, not to like empirical minds. Yeah, I don't have access to that. It's true.
Well, you don't have no, you don't have access to anyone else's minds at all.
Well, there's a fundamental distinction, right, between like the empirical mind and like the transcendental mind or the transcendental subject.
You don't have access to either one of those.
I don't believe we do. We do. Have
Okay,
access to
so then you don't know that anything outside of your experience actually works the way that you think it works.
Well, in that sense, no, we know it does not apply because those are forms of sensibility. Like we can make negative claims about the noumena.
How do you know that you can make negative claims?
Because we know, like through the deduction, which we can talk about if you want, but that the a priori forms, maybe the categories or space and time, are merely forms of intuition, which are presupposed in any thought.
Yeah, I know
experience.
that that's the argument about the transcendental subject of the I. But what I'm asking is, given Kant's scheme and system of phenomenal noumenal, aren't other minds in the noumenal realm?
No, I don't think they would be at all.
Of course they are. No. You just admitted you don't have access to other people's minds.
Well, not their empirical minds. Yeah, that's the distinction.
You don't have access to any of it. Like you don't have access to anyone's mind in any sense.
No, not the empirical mind. Not the empirical mind. We don't have access to that. But we can talk about like what's necessary for experience to obtain.
No, that's assuming the things in question. That's the point. Is that's assuming the thing in question. So Kant has a problem with the phenomenal noumenal distinction, but at the same time he wants the transcendental subject to be applicable to all the other subjects. That doesn't work.
Wait, what's your issue on?
All right.
Okay, so
forget it. Just waste. Goodbye. I'm done.
Okay.
Owen.
Hey Jay, I'm glad that Boomer called in earlier about the false dialectic between the East and the West for capitalism and communism because
yeah, I'm having a hard time today. This callers are testing my patience today.
Yeah, I know. It's just I had a question about that. I feel like capitalism basically is just a nicer road to the end goal of communism. In that it treats people as like economic units. And it's globalizing, it's internationalizing.
I mean, well, they'll say that it doesn't, that capitalism does that, but at the end of the day, I mean, what is a human anyway? I mean, if we're all dialectical materialists or we're just materialists, then the humans don't matter at all.
Yeah, I also think that, at least in the 21st century for sure, the whole removal of God from as a summum bonum or whatever, it replaces that with materialism.
Mm-hmm.
So then if it's just about materialism, then the argument will just be like whatever's the most economically advantageous is therefore the highest good in the West. And then that kind of leads down to the thought process of like you opening up your society for the hordes of foreigners and stuff, and any arguments that would like increase prices or cause economic friction, therefore you're a bad person, because don't you know that's going to make things cost more for quote unquote poor people. And what's good for them is not like virtue and like things that are good for their soul, but cheap Pop-Tarts or whatever, widgets, which the end goal of that is the same thing that like Marx and the communists want, which is like this atomized individual that's I don't know if I'm making sense, but like that it basically you just end up at the same end state. This globalized, denationalized individual that just has stuff. And I don't really see a difference between like that kind of capitalism and in the end, at least.
Yeah, no, I think in the end, they end up being the same systems. So you're absolutely right. John Neruda Groiper, what's up? By the way, all you have to do is type in Dyer tag Trinity. Go watch the videos that talk about tagging the Trinity. Don't make me rehearse stuff that I've talked about for 10 years because you're too lazy to go look up on YouTube tag and Trinity. What's up, man? There's literally like 10 clips channels now that I don't have anything to do with, and they're just clipping like crazy, which is great. And so pretty much every topic is now searchable, hopefully. So unless you're just farming for clips for your channel or your profile, like just go look it up, dude. John Naruto, what's up, man? I'm mute. Guys, remember we have a show sponsor, which is Chalk.com, CHOQ.com, the best in supplementation on the internet. Be sure to use the promo code J40, that's JY40, to get 40% off all those great products at Chalk.com, CHOQ.com, right there. And if you want to get a recurring subscription to have that product coming on the regular, which I recommend, use the promo code JAY44LIFE, that's J44LIFE, and they will be coming on the regular. Now, yes, there are several clips channels now which are dedicated to different topics. And that's the great thing is like there's a geopolitics Dyer clips channel. There is a philosophy clips channel. There's goofy, funny interaction debate clips channels. If you just type in J Dyer and then you search it for recent, filter for recent, upload date. Oh my gosh. How Tim Gordon actually crushed J Dyer. This is going to be a joke. I wonder if this Cameron Dorker would actually come on and do a debate. You know they're coping when the whole narrative has to be that I actually lost the debate. This is so silly. I think this guy's messaged me on Twitter before. I wonder if he would actually show up. I mean, these are the people defending the guy who just had a Skittles pilgrimage. I mean, this is where we're at. This is so silly. I'm looking to see if I can find this Cameron Riker guy. Cameron Riker. Here we go. Oh, it turns out I've asked him 1, 2, 3, 4 times to debate, and they're all ignored. So, no. So, Cameron Riker is comfortable making retarded videos that I lost the entire debate, but he ignores my 4 offers to come debate. And I'll show you that. Here, I'll show you. Time I asked him, he said, would you want to do a debate with Voice of Reason? And then he talked about, and I was like, yeah, if he will do it online. Let me ask and get back to you, Cameron Riker, right? Oh, turns out he never got back to me. And then I said, how about find a papal apologist who will debate something different? Everybody's debated papacy a million times. I said, here's a topic. What's a better explanation for the papacy in the last century? Geopolitical influences or the infallible charism of the Holy Spirit? Silence. No response. Then I said, I'm doing an open space, April 5th. No response. Doing an open space, April 6th. No response. Another open space, April 9th. No response. So Cameron Riker is a coward who won't actually come and debate, but he'll make his behind the screen keyboard arguments that I actually lost the entire debate. When Tim Gordon thought that God's glory is a creature, an eternal creature, which is polytheism, he had no idea what energetic manifestation was, didn't know our position, no idea what the Capitulations teach, and admitted that there's no evidence for the geopolitical power of the papacy as necessary for salvation in the first 1,000 years of the church, or that it even existed. But I lost the debate. Sure. Laser. Cameron Riker, you're a coward. Come debate. That's what I told him. Because he's ignored the last 4 opportunities. But this is what we would expect from a religion of gay coping. I mean, what, like, their papacy is literally having gay pilgrimages. By the way, I'm going to be interested to see any of them address. There's a new mass. But we've heard about hip hop masses, clown masses, puppet masses. Have you seen Fat Batman Mass? Is the new mass. There's a new Novus Ordo Mass. It's Fat Batman Mass. So, when are they going to address the Vatican? Not that, but the fact that the Red Bishop, Helder Camara, co-wrote Gaudium et Spes. And when are they going to address that Gaudium et Spes teaches Marxism, Socialism, and United Nations pacifist philosophy? These con men are literally more concerned with trying to figure out how Tim Gordon somehow actually won the debate rather than actually addressing any significant point that I brought up. Have you noticed that Joel Heschmeyer, Tim Gordon, Cameron, whatever, that none of them have actually addressed the specific arguments? Do you know why? It's because they can't. And did anybody have any update on whether Destiny was actually in some court thing, or what's going on there? Ordained Batman by the magisterial, the Joker Pope. The Joker Pope ordained Batman to do the Arkham Rite. The Arkham Rite of Mass is the new Mass. Like, these guys have a really hard sell. You know what I mean? Like, they have to try to convince you to submit to Rome. And then when you submit to Rome, you got to figure out, why would I go to the hip hop guitar Batman Mass? Like, what? It's like car salesmen that are selling you a lemon, and they have all these promises of what the patristic church is going to be like and what the papacy is going to be like. And then when you actually go there, there's fat dudes wearing Batman costumes and priests riding scooters to deliver the Eucharist on a giant drone as a techno DJ play. I mean, this is what it actually is. So, and this is why there's not really any point in debating these people anymore. Like, for me, Tim Gordon, he wanted the rematch because he felt like I was too loud on the Tim Pool debate, and he wanted a formal rematch. So I gave that to Tim. I'm done with the Roman Catholics. Like, there's none of them that are even any quality worth debating. So what's the point of it? Like, all they have left is the pretending and coping like this Cameron guy that, like, no, we've won every debate. I mean, it's like when the dear leader, right, tells you that, like, when communism is collapsing and the communist dictator is, like, still running the propaganda, that the dear leader has defeated all of the Western imperialist forces, and the dear leader has made the sun rise yet again today. It's like, that's what these people are actually like and what they're doing. And they're in a cult. Like, that's the reality of papism that I've come to learn, is that it's a cult. Like, it's literally a cult. And these people are tenaciously addicted to their cult. Jimmy, I will only take calls or objections. That's it. At this point, only if you disagree. What's up, man? Unmute.
Yeah, I guess I could phrase this as a disagreement, by the way. What's
You
up,
what?
Jay? Thanks for...
You guess what's a disagreement?
Do you think that there's anything esoteric about Christianity? Is everything esoteric in Christendem's liturgy? Or is there something missing?
What do you mean by something missing?
Well, so for example, like Simeon theologian talks about the baptism of tears, and I'm not sure if that's in the liturgy or not.
I mean, I think he's just talking about repentance. Why would that be in the liturgy? What do you mean?
Yeah, and I wonder too if I think you're right. I wonder too if there's something with the Protestants that might be interesting for you, since the Catholics are so boring. But like the Wesleyan idea of the second baptism, I think there's probably, I would say Orthodoxy probably does not want to go that way.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm now trying to be rude. These sound like a lot of sort of Protestant ideas, or like a lot of Protestantism, by the way, is influenced by Gnostic and mystical strands, especially in the Reformation, the radical reformers. Many of them had these very mystical, charismatic, or like the Hutterites and the Shakers, and like a lot of that stuff. People try to find parallels. I remember Alexander Schmemann like trying to find these parallels between Orthodoxy and Hutterites, and it's like, dude, that's just worthless. Like, why are we scraping the barrels of heresy to try to find parallels and insights? It's like, these people are not worth anybody's time. so no, we don't need Wesleyanism or anything like that to try to find some parallel with Orthodoxy. Absolutely not. It's just really not worth it, in my view. There's this exercise in futility, and usually, and I'm not calling you bad, but like usually the people that want to do that, like Western right people that are like, ooh, let's dig up everything that we can from the West and try to make it present in the Orthodox Church for what? Like, because God wants me to do that because I'm enlightened and I'm spiritual and like I'm supposed to do it. No, you're not. Nobody called you to do that. Glitchy Rhythm, $5. Debating the papacy on the geopolitics topic is a perfect subject. They pee-pee and poo-poo in their diapers, though, at the thought of debating that. That's exactly why none of them will debate that. We are 3-4 years in now for me offering that topic to tons of pop apologists, even Roman Catholic academics. They won't debate it. Nobody will debate that topic. For one, none of them have actually read any of the books on the subject matter, which is, well, actually, a couple of them have read the Wim Hof book, or, well, I don't know if they've actually read it, but they've interviewed Wim Hof and they claim to have read it, but I don't think they've actually read it. Because I've never heard of a Roman Catholic, other than David Wim Hof, refer to the Doctrinal Warfare Program. None of them know about this. And yet, they're experts on defending the papacy. Interesting, because this is a pretty devastating blow to the papacy. Because if I can demonstrate that geopolitical power and influence is a much better explanation of the papacy in the 20th century and its actions, then you're going to be hard-pressed to prove that the infallible charism of Peter is the real motivator and mover and shaker of papal actions in the 20th century. And yet, none of them will debate me on that. And why? Oh, he's mean. So the infinite excuse that I'm mean is nothing more than a cover for the fact that they don't want to actually have their positions challenged in new ways or in ways that they're not prepared for. They only want to debate the infallibility of the papacy, which just ends up being quote mines. 99% of this apologetic is quote mines, and they just want to... Where are they debating the Muslims? Do you see any Roman Catholic apologists debating the Muslims? Gregory Palamas debated Muslims. John Damascus refuted and debated Muslims. So the church fathers and the medieval saints debate Muslims. We debate Muslims. Do they? No, they don't. Trent Horn, Matt Fradd, Tim Gordon, not only do they not debate the Muslims, they defend the insane idea that we're all worshiping the same God because their idiotic, heterodox Vatican II documents bind them to that. So who's more like the patristic church and the medieval church fathers? The people defending the idea we worship the same God and never debating them? Or me, who's debated all the top Muslims in the last 7 years? Who's more like the church fathers? Calling out this satanic, crazy sect of Islam. It shouldn't be difficult. This should be like a deal breaker right here. Any one of these things is actually a deal breaker. Tim Gordon admitting that there's no evidence and he's not aware of anything in the first 1,000 years proving the temporal supremacy of the Pope nor the salvific doctrine of the temporal supremacy of the Pope should be that's a kill shot. That's an ender for the religion because it means that they have shifted and moved and revamped and retooled what's necessary for salvation. That means they've contradicted themselves, that they haven't preserved the true faith and the salvific doctrines. It's not that hard. I know the specific areas to refute their positions with precision. So what explains all their activities and their weird? It's because it's a cult. Cults don't want you learning logic and reasoning and refutations. That's all we push over here on this side of things. How could I be a cult leader when I literally push the idea of logic and critical thinking so that you don't become subject to a cult? There are no cults that teach critical thinking, logical fallacies, and proper reasoning. None of them. Cults do not want you doing that. They want you basing your decisions on emotions, basing your decisions on like glib quote mines. Oh, interesting. Like the papists do. Pray the rosary and you'll feel the burning in your bosom. Literally, I know a Roman Catholic guy who didn't choose orthodoxy because he prayed the rosary and felt the burning in his bosom. I'm kid you not. Mormon reasoning. My keys. All right. Thank you guys. A lot of fun. Everybody have a good night. Oh, wait. Brendan Turner, $5. Did you know that when they say that 25 to 28% of Gen Z have been aboboed, it's reported that in 2018, more black children were aboboed than born in NYC. You missed my first super chat. Andrew Zhang, $5. What do you think? Who was the highest IQ church father? I don't know. Perhaps one of the Capitulations? Maybe. Say Maximus, maybe. I don't know. Argus, $5. No, we read that. Brendan says I missed a super chat. No, Brendan, I read your GOP pro Skittles super chat. Chop Slop, $3. What are you wearing shades for? They're actually magnifying sunglasses. So instead of wearing these idiot, stupid-looking reader glasses, I thought it looks funnier and people will talk about me wearing shades. It looks cooler. DG, $5. Is there anything that we can do to stop technocracy other than waiting for Christ to return? Well, yeah, if enough people become awake to it and actually convert, then yeah, they won't win. Dre God, the Passport King, $2. Did you catch the AI mass post from a while back? AI mass post. What's the AI mass post? I don't know. You talking about like Trump supposedly being dead, or what's the AI mass post? Guys, remember also that Esoteric Hollywood 3 is going to be out soon. I did talk to the publisher a couple days ago. He said he thinks that it will be next week when it actually arrives at the publisher. So I wanted to be clear and upfront because we basically got all the edits and the corrections finished. So I wanted to know exactly when it would be at the publisher. He says probably next week. He has a medical issue that he's going to have to deal with first. And then he says it's immediately going to be sent to the printer. So it'll be at the printer. Next week is the present update from the publisher. You understand? People get mad at me. I don't have any control over these things, right? So if you have a publisher, I don't do and determine everything. If the publisher and his editor say, we want you to make about 100 different alterations and changes, I have to sit down and do all those. I can't just say, no, publish it now. It doesn't work like that when you have a publisher. If I was self-publishing, I could spit this out and you could have like not a top tier book or something like that. But you have to work with publishers. And so I can't control when a book is published if I have a publisher. So stop, please guys, don't email me. I'm not stealing $40 from you. You're going to get your book. I promise you. It just takes a while in the world of publishing. It's not immediate like self-publishing or everything else on the internet is immediate. I promise you, you're going to get a high-quality Esoteric Hollywood 3. Just trust me. Just be patient. I thought originally it would be done by July. But that's why it says pre-order. The reason it says in stock is it's just a default setting in the program that runs the purchasing whatever on my website. It's just a default setting. No, it's not technically in stock. I'm sorry. I can change that because this seems to be making people mad. Not a lot of people, but I've had 5 people email me and say, where's Esoteric Hollywood 3? I guess they don't listen to this stuff, but it's going to be a few weeks. It might even be a month before it arrives in your mailbox. Maybe sooner. I hope it'll be sooner. But I swear that you will get your Esoteric Hollywood 3. And if you are interested, you can still always put in a pre-order. Now, remember, if you order other stuff, I can't go in and just send you everything but Esoteric Hollywood 3. It's not possible in this program. Also, it's not feasible. I would be sitting here for weeks sending you half of your order. It's just not. So if you order 3 things, one of which is Esoteric Hollywood 3, you have to wait for Esoteric Hollywood 3. It's not that even that they don't read, it's that a lot of people order the book, but they don't hear the shows on the regular. So they don't hear me giving the updates about the fact that it's not as quick as I hoped, right? I was hoping ASAP it would be July. The publisher said, I read it. I had an editor read it. We think that to have a high quality book, you're going to need to make about 100 changes. That's pretty normal in publishing. Now, if I had just on the first go round written an astoundingly awesome, perfect book, there wouldn't have to have been about 100 changes. It took me a while to do all these. Okay. So I went back and did them. Now the publisher's like, okay, I've got to do the index. So what he did last week was create the index for the book. Do you want me to show you so that you guys don't think that I'm making this up? Look, let me show you the book and I'll show you the index so that you know this is actually happening. It's not a fake made up book. Okay, let's see. Download this. Let's see. Maybe I think I can open this over here. Let's try that. Okay, are you looking? Esoteric Hollywood 3, ready? All done. Contents. Look at all this. So we fixed a lot of these errors that were in this part as well. See this right here? Index. He spent the last week doing the index. Let me show you the index so you guys believe me. In notes, look at this. How many footnotes did we end up with this time? 889 footnotes this go round. Index, look at that. So Chris took about a week to create this index. Can you guys see it? $364 pages. Esoteric Hollywood Theory. So there's the index. Also, I had to write a conclusion. He said, I think the book actually needs a separate section called conclusion. So I wrote that. You'll notice we have some pretty exciting apocalyptic sections here towards the end. Apocalypse Trilogy, The Thing, Prince of Darkness, Exorcism, Exorcist, CIA script stuff, all this kind of classic stuff over the years that we've talked about. Rosemary's Baby, a lot of new stuff. That's why this book took me so long. This book took me way longer than the other ones. Section 6, Hollywood Antichrist Apocalypse. So you guys see the PDF? There's a real book. You're going to get a book. We added the index. It's not fake. You're not getting scammed. I promise you're going to get your book. And yes, you can still place the orders right here. I'm not leaking the book. I'm just showing you what was added, which was the index. So Chris did the index last week, and he says he thinks it will be at the printer next week. So the good news is that the way he described the way he's doing the printing process nowadays is that it's pretty quick. So I don't anticipate printing being something that will take many weeks. Seems like it's a pretty ironed out process now. All right, looks like we got all the super chats. Guys, remember you can get tickets to our event in November in Florida right here at the Eventbrite link in the show description. Right here. Athens and Jerusalem, Orthodox Art, Philosophy, and Life. Dr. David Patrick Harry, Metropolitan Jonah, Father Vladimir, Father Deacon Dr. Ananias, myself. There might be other priests that Father Vladimir is inviting. I'm not sure. But you can get the tickets right here. It's a 2-day conference. And we're a few months out. So go ahead and get those tickets.